This was one of those games you just had to see it live to actually feel how good it was. From beginning to end, the best way to explain this was like a trip to Six Flags as a kid. When you get on a roller coaster for the first time, you reach the top of that ride and boom, the drop. And as soon as you think it's over, there's a loop, there's a turn, there's some highs, there's some lows. And whether or not you like that roller coaster or not represents whether or not you're an Alabama fan or a Georgia fan. Alabama fans got off the ride, loved it, heart beating fast, and asked their parents can they go on it again. Georgia fans, however, became that person you know heart is still pounding, had a little bit of fun, but never wants to go on that roller coaster again. And this game indeed was an emotional roller coaster, a tale of two halves with a cinematic finish. We're going to recap the game from Jalen Milroe's greatness to Ryan Williams' big plays to Carson Beck, who had an up and down day. We will talk about what I liked from this game, what I didn't like from this game from a Georgia perspective and an Alabama perspective. But before we get into it, make sure that you guys like, comment, and also subscribe to the channel. And with that, let's get into this video. So we start off the game with this rushing touchdown from Jalen Milroe. Alabama went up the field fairly quickly. The play calling was great in the first half, and on this drive you could tell this Alabama offense came out ready. After a quick possession by Georgia, Alabama would score again on what was a great throw to Jam Miller. The defender simply could not catch up. A great over-the-shoulder pass, and now the score is 14-0. And it was at this point I'm thinking, ain't no way Alabama is going to go up 21-0. Georgia has to respond, right? Well, they did. Another quick possession from Georgia and Beck's first interception of the night, which led to this 7-yard run by Jeremy Bernard. And I'm yelling, I'm also happy, but I'm shocked at the same time. This is Georgia. Ain't no way this game is over, but it was at this point, it looked that way. I thought Georgia would respond in the first half, but they had no answer. The next Alabama possession, we would see Jalen Milroe take off running on a 4th and 1 for a score. And now is 28-0. Everything, and I mean everything, in this game was clicking for Alabama. Georgia would finally respond with a nice long drive, which finished on the back of Trevor Etienne. The following Alabama possession, we would finally see Georgia get a stop after stuffing Alabama on a 4th and 1. However, Carson Beck would throw another interception. It has to be demoralizing as a defense. You have been working hard all night just for your QB to throw a pick on the first play of the next possession. That was Carson Beck's first time with 2 INTs in a game. However, after Alabama would string together a nice drive, Jalen Milroe would throw an interception of his own, but tight end would get his hands on the ball. It was definitely catchable, and the placement of the ball was indeed behind him, but I think he threw the ball there in order to save him from getting hit if he would have thrown that ball anywhere else. Either way though, this gave Georgia some hope, and this hope would not last long because soon after this, Georgia would get called for intentional grounding in the end zone. So it's a safe. And it was at this point in the game that Beck looked entirely rattled. The Alabama defense was playing great. It was all Alabama. But what was even crazier than this, Alabama should have scored on another drive, but the SEC refs were blind and missed an obvious pass interference call before halftime, which caused Alabama to punt. And so we go into halftime with a score of 30-7. So Georgia would score first in the next half and get a 2-point conversion to make it a 2-score game. But then great focus on this catch by Ryan Williams, which put Alabama in the red zone for a field goal. And it was at this point in the game that I wish Alabama would try to hand it off just a little bit more to the running backs. Either way, the score is 33-15. Georgia had just scored on their last possession and is driving after a 4th down conversion, but Carson Beck fumbles. Another turnover for him. The day could not get any worse. Georgia defense is playing better. They would hold Alabama to a 3-and-out, but time and time again, the offense could not pull together back-to-back scoring possessions. That was until we got into the 4th quarter with about 9:48 left. Carson Beck would throw a touchdown pass to Lawson Lucky. The score is 21-33. Alabama wouldn't score, wouldn't get anything going on offense. Georgia would drive. Dylan Bell would get a 3-yard touchdown run. The score is 28-33. Alabama still could not move the ball at this point. The Georgia defense was locking in. On top of that, the Alabama defense was starting to play on their heels, getting tired because of the lack of time that the offense was on the field. Beck was starting to wake up, and then Dylan Bell would then score on a 67-yard touchdown catch. So now the score is 34-24. to 33. And I was watching this game on my phone because we were moving all week. That's why it's taking so long for me to make this video. And I just made it to the house with a U-Haul full of stuff. And I'm telling you this story for a reason. My wife is tired. You know how it goes. You're moving. It's a long day. And it's about that time to go to bed. I was going to finish watching the game from the comfort of my pillow. She knows that Alabama was up 28-0 earlier. And then I say, uh-oh, Alabama is losing. Somehow, some way, she got a lot of energy and turned the TV on. And this is not a little TV. We have a huge TV in the living room. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know where this energy is coming from because I've been begging for that energy while we was moving. And all of a sudden, because Alabama was losing, she got all of this energy. She ain't right. Either way, her and my mother-in-law act like Auburn fans, but they really ain't Auburn fans. They are fans of whoever is going against Alabama. Now, my mother lost the fence. She was sleeping at this time, so she wasn't necessarily worried about what was going on. But little did my wife know, when she turned that TV on, we would see one of the craziest plays this season.
Gotta have it right now, and they take a downfield shot. And the catch is made. It's Ryan Williams, still spinning free. Touchdown, Alabama, the answer in one play.
Ryan Williams, 75-yard catch for a touchdown. I'm running around the house even though the game ain't over yet. Mother-in-law still sleeps. She tired. She don't know what's going on. My wife, silent. I would eventually calm down to watch the last drive by Georgia, which ended up being a game-sealing interception by the young corner Xavier Brown, who they had been testing all night. Now we have your final score, 34-41. And throughout what was a crazy game, there are some good and some bad things to take away from it for both teams. Let's start with Georgia. Firstly, Georgia tackling was really bad. Every time Alabama made any type of juke, cut, even running downhill straight at them, Georgia was not ready. A lot of mistakes early, a lot of offensive pass interference. This was really weird to see. Even though Alabama had more penalty yards, Georgia penalties felt like they came at times where it killed momentum. It's never a right time for a penalty, but the timing does make a huge difference here. Secondly, Georgia looked like a completely different team in the second half. Alabama was too conservative at times, but also relied too much on the pass at times. There is this misconception that Alabama just simply took their foot off the gas for a little bit, but for a majority of that second half, no. To me, it simply looked like Georgia's defense started to wake up, and Carson Beck did the same. Well, at least until that last play. Their defense, though, really turned it on in the second half, finally calming down and showing why they are still one of the best teams in the country. Despite almost getting blown out, they came back and even took the lead in what was maybe the best game of the year so far. And lastly, we got to talk Carson Beck. I don't know how to feel about him right now. On one hand, he did come back and have 434 yards with 3 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions and a fumble. So he did bring them back, but most of the reason why Georgia was losing in the first place was because of him. Early, he looked rattled, not composed, not comfortable. Probably should have even thrown a pick 6 in this game too, but it was dropped. It is going to be interesting to see when he plays another big time game, like in a few weeks against Texas, but I'll call this a wash for right now because I don't think he had a great game at all. We have seen this from players before. The pressure is not there when you are losing like it is when the game is close. It wasn't until that pressure was taken off because they were down so bad that he actually began to wake up. But as soon as that game was close and it was money time, he threw that interception. I'm going to call it a watch for now, but I'm going to continue to watch and see how Carson Beck performs against Texas before I make my final decision and write him off as a guy who was just an average guy. Because right now, people predict that he is in that top echelon of quarterbacks who are supposed to get drafted in the NFL draft later on. So we shall see. So with that being said though, let's flip script and go over to Alabama. Alabama's offense looked amazing in the first half. Fluent. A lot of motion. Still a few penalties, but nothing that hurt. Defense was great in the first half. DBs were tested all night. Gave up a few, but showed up in the end. Jalen Milroe played great in what was his best game by far of his college career. And if this is not a draft stock booster game, a Heisman campaign talk kind of game, I don't know what it is. 27 for 33. 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, ran for 116 yards with 2 touchdowns, and that one pick was his fault, but not really when you look at it. He throws the ball behind the guy to save him from getting hit, makes a big play down the stretch to win the game, a ball to Ryan Williams, who had 6 catches for 117 yards, a big day for a guy who really needs to turn 18 already. The only issue I had for this Alabama team is the fact that they mismanaged the clock, in my opinion. I almost got, and we almost saw, Falcons versus Patriots in the Super Bowl right here in college football. We almost saw that. It all worked out, so I'm not going to argue or be upset at the results. But like in my last video I made about this team, I will continue to say this. We have 2 of the best running backs in the country, and they're being underutilized in the running game. I love the fact that they're getting them involved in the passing games. We saw the touchdown to Jalen Milroe. We see at times Justice Haynes actually lines up at wideout. So I love all the creativity in this offense, but at the same time, just like the Falcons learned in that Super Bowl, sometimes you had to just let the play clock go all the way down to around that 5-second range and just hand the ball off, rinse and repeat, because I think this team is that good. I think we can run the ball 3 times and get a first down. If we're not that good, I just want to see it so I can shut up about it. I want to see if we can do it, because I think we have the guys, the tools, the offensive line to make that work, because we saw in this game, in the few passes that Jalen Milroe did not complete, it stopped the momentum at times, and it also stopped the clock, which was not what Alabama wanted right then. It was one quarterback run where Milroe ran straight out of bounds. I'm thinking, I don't like that either. The clock mismanagement allowed Georgia to get back in this game with enough time, which this game probably should have been over before they took the lead. But either way, like I said, we won, and it is what it is. But things like that can get you beat later on in the season. But I will say this one thing about Georgia coming back. In a weird way, you can look at this differently. Georgia got back into the game and took the lead, I know. But the thing about it is, it also humbles a team going forward, letting them know absolutely no lead is safe. And that feeling that they got from losing that lead, they got to make sure they never have that feeling again. And the fact that they were able to overcome it in the same game and get the W makes it a fantastic learning experience. Should you have been in that position anyways? No. But you had what it took to pull yourself out of that hole you dug yourself in. All in all, though, a great win for Alabama, a great comeback attempt for Georgia, bad half and finish for Beck, and an overall great game from Milroe and Ryan Williams.